Kaleo Church, what is troubling you in this current season? If you're like me, it's the loss of the actual presence of people. No matter how many phone calls or Zoom meetings I do, I can feel the void of not being with you all. In today's Kaleo Bible reading in our KBR, we're in John 14. At the end of John 13, Jesus announced to his disciples that he was going away and he was going to leave them very soon. After 3 years with them, you can imagine they would be troubled by this news. They can't imagine life without the one whom they believe to be the Messiah. Then, aware of their sorrow, listen to these words. Jesus doesn't speak towards them with indifference. He doesn't speak towards them with frustration because they aren't fully grasping yet what he has told them over and over again. But John 14:1 shows his heart towards his disciples when Jesus says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me." I love this because Jesus knows when his people are troubled. And this text shows us he cares. Yet his remedy to his disciples' trouble doesn't divert him or keep him from accomplishing the mission he came to do here on this earth. No, he doesn't look at them and say, you know what? I see how troubled you are. And you know what? I know I came to die for you, but I really don't want you to be troubled, so let's just cancel those plans and I'll just stay with you. No, if he did that, he wouldn't truly care about them because what they ultimately needed was someone to go to a cross, to die for their sins, to raise from the dead in victory over those sins, to ascend to the right hand of the Father so that he could send the Holy Spirit to come and apply all of his work to all who would believe in him. So Jesus comforts them with something far better than him staying with them. Listen to John 14:2. He says, "In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you?" Jesus is telling them that he is going away to his Father's house, which has many rooms. In Jesus' day, the head of the house would often start to add these wings of room after room to their home. As their sons and daughters would marry, they would bring in these new family members and just continue to add to the house. The imagery of the word there for rooms is actually supposed to give us this beautiful picture of this large compound with a central communal courtyard. That's how it was in the first century. So I want you to imagine, Jesus is looking around the table at his disciples, and he's assuring them they need not trouble because he has room in his family for anyone who would believe. Anyone. Now some of us may hear this and we may think, well, yeah, that was probably just intended for the disciples. You know, they gave up their life for 3 years. They did a lot of really good things in their life. I don't think that's for people like me. There is no way he could make room for those who continue to be troubled and struggle to even believe in him. We may think there's no room for those who have previously wasted away their time in isolation, just to see now in this current coronavirus situation how necessary people are. But in John 14:23, Jesus opens up his heart even more towards anyone who would believe in him. Listen to his words. He says, if anyone, I'm going to say that again. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. Do you guys hear how stunning of a promise that is? Do you hear how incredible of a promise that Jesus is making to his disciples and anyone who would believe? The Father and the Son will come and live with you. The Greek word there for rooms in chapter 14, verse 2 and in verse 23, those are the only two times that word is used in the entire New Testament. And it's to make clear to someone reading John 14 that in the midst of being a troubled people who are missing their friends and their family, that the blessed Trinity, the God of creation, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are with you. Indeed, you are not alone. In fact, what we love about being with people so much is actually meant to just be a reflection of this greater family we are a part of, the Trinity itself, the family of God. The nearness and the affections we have for our friends is a small glimmer of the shining truth that the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are really and truly with us. That is what we are made for. That is what we were saved for. As comforting as I hope that is, Jesus wants to do even more in this passage than what he's already done. He wants to move our troubled hearts past the present and on to the future day when he himself will return. In John 14:3, he says, if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may also be. Jesus was going away, and he knew that fellowship with the Trinity was something that we can only grasp by faith in our current circumstances. He knew that it was something that we had to have a faith to hold on to. And so he sets the eyes of the disciples and anyone who would believe, including us, on the horizon of that glorious day when he would come back for them. And what he wants them to see, and for us to behold, is not primarily about heaven, but about him. Let me reread the second part of 14:3 and notice what Jesus puts the emphasis on here. I will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. What Jesus is trying to comfort us with, those who are troubled by their current circumstances, is that there is a person that this whole story is about. It is about being with that person, about the eternal treasure who truly loves his people. But the only way he could bring a troubled and sinful people into his family was by cleansing them. And to cleanse them, he himself had to enter trouble. I love this because Tim had said in the Easter sermon that Jesus, through his resurrection and calling us to be faithful unto death, he can call us to do that because he himself is the only one who has experienced that. In the same way here, he's not telling us don't be troubled without understanding trouble himself, but he himself enters into it. Earlier in John 12:27, Jesus had said, "Now is my soul troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour?" No, you see, the reason for Jesus being troubled is also what cleanses us. We see this a couple verses later in John 12:32 when Jesus said, "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." That includes anxious people. That includes people who are afraid. And that includes people who are troubled like you and me. Kaleo Church, let your hearts not be troubled. Christ has made a home for his people in the presence of his Father. And the Holy Spirit, our helper, makes a home for the Father and the Son in us. Can you believe this? That's what Jesus wants. That's what he's saying. Believe in God and believe in me. It is incredible news to be a part of his family. There is room after room being prepared for us, and he is making room in us as well. Kaleo Church, your God is with you. Be not troubled.